music. I had to hold. Is it on?
Yeah, it's on. Turn on the microphone.
Hello.
There you go. Now, if you put your headphones on, you'll hear what you sound like.
So anyway, I work it away.
Yeah.
And I finally gave up because I had to turn my computer. There's a laptop like that. It's from a PDS. I'll move my chair forward, don't worry. But I had to turn my computer to get sunlight so I could see the screen. And you're driving through the hills of Missouri, and all of a sudden there's a shadow. It's like, and it would disappear, and I finally just gave up. So I was showing Mary Love some music options for the spring. And she goes, "Why is your screen so dark?" I said, "I know, I'm hitting light switches." And she goes, "Have you tried that little sunshine button?" Oh.
The brightness button.
If only there was a button for fixing this problem.
Yes. Agreed.
Welcome to another episode of the Himebook Family Podcast. It's been far too long. Believe it or not, we all lead very busy lives. So as much as the people want this, and we know the people want this, because I do hear from some of you. Some of them are threats, but we're going to keep making these videos nonetheless. We have brought on, I believe you now hold the record. You beat Grandpa and Peter. You are officially the guest. It's sort of like hosting SNL the most times. Like this is your third time, so when you get to 5, you get like a little, little card or something. We'll make sure like a little coupon. I don't know what it's for, but maybe for one free cow.
That's what I need.
Take you to Bockerman's Bakery. It's like, we would like to purchase one bovine, please.
Oh, well, I don't know if they'd sell that anymore.
Oh, really?
Have you been since they...
No, I haven't.
It's
on my list.
It's a little different. It's not...
Just scoot your chair.
Yeah, just scoot your chair. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's a little different than it was. They still have all the animals in the back. I would almost say that it's run a little bit more business-like now. So they still do everything they used to do. So you know how they had all like
this
the
is
soaps
Bockerman's Bakery, by the way. Should we explain what this is before we talk about it?
It was a Mennonite community grocery store.
Wait, so they sold it?
It's not under.
It's not owned by the family.
Not anymore.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's fine. It's like it used to be. It's just everything's now like all their soaps and all that stuff is now in the back, and then they've got new stuff on the side of the wall. So it's just a little different, but I think for the better.
What's the family doing?
I don't. They didn't. I mean, they didn't consult me, so I don't know.
He said he had other things he was going to pursue.
So.
Okay.
Mark Yoder, nice guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Super sweet.
My wife knows their family bought cows from their family, so oh yeah. Every time we would go to Bockerman's, she would walk up and say hi to them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So we brought back the big dog himself, Mr. T. I'm kidding.
Have any of your students ever called you that?
No.
They've done far worse. I've seen some of the Shepherd's Horn contraband material that exists of you with the Dwayne the Rock
Johnson doing this. Yeah.
I don't know when that became.
That was a
thing.
Vinny Lovato. That was Vinny Lovato's making.
Vinny Lovato?
Oh, was it Jacob Vaughn? Oh.
Charlie.
It was Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Charlie. He has a beard now. That's the terrifying. They talk about how your students get older. I can stomach them getting older. Even them having kids is like, oh, okay, it happens. But when you start seeing like little baby-faced boys that now have facial hair and jobs, and you just go, oh my word, that's terrifying. Do you know who is our new accountant at church?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He used to be at Shepherd's.
He goes to your church.
Yeah. He's a deacon.
He's a deacon.
And a treasurer. Yeah.
I was just like, I can't get away from these people. Like. They're everywhere. I will say though, after you meet with a good Italian family, you're just like, I get it. I get how the Italians ran things for so long. I understand.
He's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been teaching long enough now where my students are grandparents.
We're not there yet.
No.
I don't appreciate the yet, but okay.
Huh?
You too will feel old one day.
I'd rather
coming.
feel old than not.
There you go. Hey, man. Yeah. Oh, good heavens. All right. So, I don't really have a full-on agenda. I know last time we met, you had mentioned something about having an episode in mind for your dad, stories about your dad. I didn't know how much you wanted to delve. I always try to go back and listen to all the previous podcasts of whoever our guest is, if they've been on before, so we don't ask the same questions. But even if there is some overlap, that's fine. I would just be very curious how you envision that sort of episode to run. What stories do you have? Yeah, take it away.
Oh, I have lots of stories, but have I told you my story of Dad and the airplane flight in western Kansas? Was that on one of the
No.
podcasts? No!
I don't believe so.
Oh, this
don't
is one of
remember
my
it.
favorite stories in Memphis, where everyone knows a pilot if they aren't one. How to absolutely shock a pilot. This is a true story. My dad had a good friend out in Kansas who just recently had gotten his pilot's license, and he owned a 2-seater Cessna airplane, and he invited Dad to go flying with him. I would have been about 7th grade, and he had my older brother Ted and myself and my little brother John. He invited us all to come along. Now, if you're a pilot, this is the first clue. The guy is new at this. There were only 2 seats.
Oh.
And so we were left to crawl around in the fuselage. But there were windows on the side. There's a reason why they strap people to the airplane. It's not for their protection. It's for the plane's protection. You don't want the weight shifting. So we're in the back of the plane going, oh, look over there. And we all scoot over to this side so we can see. Oh, look over there. And we all scoot over to that side so we can see. That's one strike against you. If you're a pilot, you're going, no. And then my dad and this other fellow, they kept swapping stories as they're flying out over western Kansas, where he had never been. And he hadn't planned his flight path. And he hadn't registered a flight path. And he never thought about it. And my pilot friends are all going, no! And then the radio kept interrupting their stories. So he just turned it off. And much easier to communicate with each other up front. And we were flying over western Kansas, right near the Colorado border. He'd never been there before. And suddenly, down below us, it looked like moon craters. It was really kind of cool. And as we passed overhead, the pilot says, did you just see that? Let's go take a closer look.
Oh, yeah.
So we dropped down to get a closer look at those moon craters. And we were flying over the moon craters when those 2 F-16 fighter jets showed up. One on either side. And they went roaring by. And they were so close. I could see the eyes or the head, goggles. And the plane is wobbling. And the pilot goes, maybe I should turn the radio back on. And it turns out we were flying over restricted military airspace. It was their dive bombing facility. And they had been radioing us for a period of time. Who are you? Don't go there. No response. So they sent up 2 F-16s to investigate. My hunch is his pilot's license took a hit after that. We never made it that far when I was in 7th grade, but it's like, looking back.
Never had another ride with him.
No.
And I will say I have a friend who was a pilot, and he used to fly in Alaska, and he said, that sounds like the guys I used to fly with in Alaska.
Wow.
Now, how old were you when this happened?
About 7th grade.
Okay, yeah. Try to imagine yourself now stuffed into the back of that little airplane. I don't feel claustrophobic very often, but whenever I do, it's in airplanes or in airplane bathrooms. Anytime, flying back from Germany recently, and we got into, it was a 10-hour flight, and I swear this American Airlines flight had the smallest seats. It's sort of like how you go back to old roller coaster rides, and it's like my hips don't fit. I'm just like, it's not even like my girth is too much. It's like it's not built for someone my size, period. And I felt that way. Me sandwiched between Andy and Peter, we're all just like, this is going to be the worst 10 hours of everyone's lives, and we aren't going to be friends. So I called the stewardess over and was like, I'm so sorry, but to save this friendship, if there happens to be 2 free seats and someone sitting on the end and they'd be willing to have me sit a seat away from them, could you please move me so that we can be friends when the plane lands. Wow. And I'm trying to imagine just climbing in the back of a plane and not feeling that, because I feel it in a larger plane as a larger person. But when you're a kid, you don't really think about it. That's something that, like, a little bit of freedom that I don't think adults recall losing, I guess. Like I said, I rode in a small plane once in New Zealand. We flew around that mountain they used for Mount Doom. And thankfully, Rachel sat in the back. She let me sit in the front. And even just sitting in the front in a tiny little plane, I was like in a little space capsule. Or in European cars, you know, you're climbing down into them like, okay, so we're going to get cozy right about now. But as a 7th grader, you're just like, sure, I'm just going to crawl around in the back of the airplane. And then, oh, look, F-16s.
Well, it's like the whole seatbelts were not really a thing, right?
Oh, no.
It's like, oh, we're going to jump in the back of the station wagon and we're just going to go.
Oh, well, absolutely. My sister had an experience in Kansas growing up. If you were one of the wild kids, you went cow tipping.
Yeah.
And they really did that back in those days. If you were one of the straight kids, you were at the rodeo every weekend, and there was always a rodeo somewhere. And if you were in between, like my sister Becky, you would drag Maine. And dragging Maine is a huge, exciting event. You get on at Hutchinson, Kansas.
Main Street.
Yeah.
Main Street is
Drag
from
race
1 to
down.
30. No. Just drag Maine. It's 1 to
Not
30.
how kids speak, yo.
A to Z. Okay.
Gucci.
And what you do to drag Maine right, you gather all your friends, you stuff them in the car with you, you roll down the windows, you turn your radio on loud, and you wave at all of your friends. And the people that have access to a car are all doing this, and those that aren't are sitting on the benches waving back. They even had to finally put up signs, no sitting on this bench Friday and Saturday nights from 7 until 11, because so many people, this is what you do for fun. So my sister Becky drove a Buick.
All the things that need to be fixed in this town. I tell you, put that sign out.
Them youngins and their rock
those
music.
hooligans.
So my sister Becky, she's driving a 2-door Buick Skylark. We called it Woody Hoodie. Unless we were mad at it, then it was Junkie Trunky. But Woody Hoodie belonged to my mother's cousin, and they suddenly realized one day, her uncle, that between the 6 of them, they had 8 cars. And they decided that 2 cars were expendable. Let's get them off. So they were looking for someone who needs a car, and Becky had her driver's license and didn't have a car. So she got Woody Hoodie. It was a Buick Skylark, 2-door, with the front seat fold down, you get in the back. But it had been parked at Oklahoma University, and a diesel truck had run over the back end. And so they managed to pry it up off the ground, but the trunk lid never worked again. So they took a piece of 3/4-inch plywood and a great big wing nut, and they painted the plywood silver so it theoretically matched the car, and that way you could still drive Woody Hoodie, hence Junkie Trunky. So my sister is in Woody Hoodie, and she's got 5 girls in Woody Hoodie. Okay, and they're dragging Maine, rolling down the windows, waving at their friends. This is what you do for fun on a Saturday night. And there was
This is
a
what
VW.
they thought was such rebellious. Like
I
this
know.
was rebellious back in the day. Like
Oh, no.
that's tame.
No,
we
no.
should bring that one back,
Yeah,
but
you
not
don't-
in Memphis.
You don't tell your parents.
Go down, Bill. Hey.
So now you have this other little VW Bug, and in the VW Bug there were 4 girls, and they're all waving, and they got to a stoplight, and they're going, "Hey, next stoplight, 2-car Chinese fire drill." Ooh, we're dressing up our dragging Maine. So they got to the net. Well, how do you do a 2-car Chinese fire drill? Well, they'd never tried that before. So in the VW Bug, they were talking about it, and they're like, "Well, I guess you get up, you run around both cars, you get back in your car." And in the meantime, in the Buick Skylark with the 5 girls, it's like, I think, well, the driver has to be in the same car, but I think everybody else is supposed to switch. So they get to the stoplight, true story, by the way, and the light's red. Doors are opening everywhere. You've got 9 girls pouring out of these cars, running around both cars. Everybody's giggling. The light turns green. People are honking. 8 of the girls ended up in the VW Bug, and my sister had the Buick all to herself. Then they had to figure out how to undo that 2-car Chinese fire drill.
Wow. Wow.
So we had exciting times when I was growing up.
About to say that's nothing.
That's not how American Graffiti portrayed it.
No, American Graffiti is completely different.
So when you say they're listening to the radio, so what kind of music? I mean, clearly, again, this is different generations we're talking about. So what was the rebellious music that Aunt Becky's, that her ilk was listening to?
Her ilk.
Like when I think,
No.
clearly it wasn't Terry with his AC/DC and death metal,
When I was growing up, if we listened to the radio,
Yep.
it was always the Christian radio station, and they always sang hymns.
of course.
And
Not anymore.
Sometimes y'all sang on the radio station.
yeah, we were on television and radio.
So y'all were celebrities.
A lot of Gaither, a lot of hymns, John Peterson.
Man, he's still around. Gaither.
Gaither, yeah.
Wow. Ain't nothing can keep that hairpiece and those teeth whiteners out. Like, my goodness. Whoever is preserving him is also preserving Michael W. Smith, and they deserve an award and also to be kicked out of polite society.
And there's our
just
first
let people
flag.
die. No. They look good. You can see the whites of their teeth from the back of an auditorium, but you're also like, I don't want to imagine paying for that. My word.
Called
Anyway.
veneers.
Sure. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So anyway, I do not know what my sister was listening to, but
Okay. So Aunt Becky, when it's your turn and we do a little Zoom, we can record Zoom meetings, right?
We know what we're doing now.
That did not answer my question, but I'm going to go for it. So, Aunt Becky, when it's your turn, just know we're going to be asking you what kind of hoodlum music you were listening. Hoodlum? Hooligan? I got to mix up.
Hoodlum. Hooded hoodlum.
But yeah, so I wanted to quick share with you too. By the way, I forget who it was. It wasn't in Germany because I didn't want to take it international. But I did share the 5-minute story of the Golden Screw. And I was trying to describe to them my family's sense of humor. It's going to come to me as you tell a story who I was talking to, because I forget who it was, but it was some poor, unfortunate soul that had been asked, very unique family sense of humor I see. I'm like, you have no idea. And so I was giving them, the very brief, it might have been family members, like my wife's family, and I was trying to explain to them, no, this I came by this naturally. And I get to the end of that story, and it went about as you'd expect. Everyone kind of going, and do I get those 5 minutes of my life back? No, I don't. I'm like, yeah, you don't understand. There's a 15-minute version, a 30-minute. There's a director's cut and an extended director's cut. My dad's the Ridley Scott of storytelling.
Now, that story came from my great-grandfather, great-grandpa Dunn. And we heard it every year at Christmas. That was one of the traditions. And there's a reason why that story... That's right. There's a reason why that story takes place in Mexico. That's where my great-grandpa Dunn grew up. And he had moved there. His dad was a band director. And in the 1890s, the economy tanked before it rejuvenated. And when it tanks, if you're a music teacher, you're first on the list. And so
we all feel that.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Oh, you go to Michigan. When I was in high school, about a third of the Michigan Congress were former band directors, choir directors, drama teachers, and church janitors. Because every 3 or 4 years, they'd be kicked out of school because you got to vote on your taxes. Well, if you got a chance to lower your property tax, you're not stupid. You do it. And that means the schools have less money, so they dump all the arts. And then people realize, what we've just missed. And so 2 years later, they vote to bring it back in. And so they hire all these rookies coming out of college because they're a lot cheaper. Mm-hmm. And then 2 years later, they go, hey, I can lower my taxes. And it became a revolving door. And so they were all ending up in Congress, state Congress. But, that wasn't about Mexico. So anyway, my great-grandpa Dunn.
And we're back.
No, my great-great-grandpa Dunn was a band director. And he packed up the family and they moved to Mexico. And I would love to tell you which part, but I have no clue. I think my great-uncle Carol may have been the last person that knew. He has since died. That was my mother's uncle, but he was the last of that generation. But it was somewhere in Mexico, and they had a family business. And my hunch is it was a store, but that's just a guess. I do know that on Saturdays, they would have the Dunn family band performing at the village gazebo. And my great-grandfather played a flute. One of them actually, if I've got the story right, played a saxophone, which is remarkable because the saxophone was invented in 1888. So that would have been an instrument that was 10 years or younger. I know that because in 1988, when I started teaching, they were celebrating the 100th anniversary of the saxophone. It's not really that my memory's that good. But so they would have the concerts. One of his brothers played a clarinet. One of them played a trumpet. He played a flute. Pancho Villa was having one of his revolutions. And suddenly being an American...
was bored. Sorry.
Yeah. He did that like 3 different times. And he took over the government and then handed it to somebody he would trust.
Wasn't there some sort of restaurant chain, like Ponchos or something? No, never mind. Forget it.
Oh no!
I was always
There's ponchos.
There's a picture of Pancho Villa at the Mexican restaurant down the road.
Yeah.
And I always loved that because he was such a part of our family history. Because when he came to town, they realized we're out of here. So they buried the family fortune somewhere down in Mexico. Nobody knows where. And they were piling everybody onto
Road
the
trip.
train.
Let's say, put on your Indiana Jones hat.
Mm-hmm.
It belongs in a museum.
They pile everybody on the train, aim north, but his oldest brother was still locking up the business. I think at this point, my great-grandfather was either 14 or 16 or somewhere in between. And he could speak... he never graduated from college because he couldn't pass English. You're in Mexico. But he watched his older brother lock the door, and as he was coming to the train, the rebellion army showed up, and he watched his brother get gunned down in the street. And they managed to get the train up and running and outran the horses. And then they came back to the States at that point. But so his stories, most of his stories, were Mexican. And that's true of this one. Now, I will tell one other one that's really fun. I always used to tell my kids, I will tell you a story that you may not tell your mother. Now, at that point, you have everyone's attention.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're all
That's
concerned.
usually the beginning of court proceedings.
And in this case, it was a story about the banker who decided to leave New England and make his fortune in San Francisco.
Okay, so
The gold rush.
you know this.
I
don't know this. I don't think you've told me this.
Hoodie.
I could number my stories. Yeah, he would know them all.
That's true. You'd be like 71.
Yes. So anyway,
you get it.
his wife absolutely refused to take the overland route. She went around the Cape, down to South America and up on a ship. Much more expensive, much longer trip. He and his teenage daughter, they took the stagecoach.
Are these fictional people?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Oh, man.
Okay,
You should have waited.
I thought you were talking about your great.
You should have waited.
Uh-huh. I know.
I thought you were talking about your great grandfather. I was like, wait a minute.
So
what?
anyway, they were out in the Old West and they're crossing over the desert, and all of a sudden, that gang of robbers shows up, and the stagecoach is held up.
Okay.
And he is watching these guys as they take all of his luggage. They clean out all of his pockets. They gather it all up, and as they're riding off into the sunset, he looks at his daughter and he goes, "We're ruined. Everything I own was on this stagecoach, and they just took it all. And we're going to be in California. We have no money. We have no job. This is hopeless." And his daughter went, "Oh, Pop, you worry too much." And she opens her mouth and she starts pulling out money and jewelry and watches that she had stuffed in her mouth when she saw the robbers coming. And as he's watching all this stuff coming out of her mouth, he goes, "Oh, if only your mother were here, we could have saved the stagecoach."
This is a non-mother approved story, by the way.
That was my great-grandfather's sense of humor.
Wow.
That was one of the other stories that we always had to endure. But the Golden Screw was his signature story. And the Golden Screw, now this one is true. Or not.
Are you
We'll
about
let
to
you
tell
decide.
the Golden Screw?
I thought I was supposed to.
Oh, you don't have to. I was just sharing about the terror I inflicted on other people.
No.
These are family members. I think they've all heard the Golden Screw.
I haven't heard it in a while.
I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Kidding. You go ahead. I can't believe.
And now, for your listening pleasure.
I feel like we need some
The
old Hammond
Golden
organs, like old
Screw.
There we
radio.
go.
Post. I got it.
So, many, many years ago, in a little village in Mexico, there was a young baby who was born. Now, they usually come young. And the little baby was born, and the poor little baby had a very unique problem. No belly button. Instead, where everyone else has a belly button, he had a golden screw.
Dun dun dun.
Okay, now, growing up in that little community, everybody knows it. And you became the little kid with the golden screw. And his poor mother, they went from doctor to doctor to doctor, and nobody could cure it. Nobody had a clue what was going on. And so he became the outsider at the village. He would live a little bit out of town. He only came in at night because everybody, oh, there goes the guy with the golden screw. Ah. Okay, so one night he was
You're bringing
passing.
this on yourself. I just
Yeah.
want to.
Bring it on.
So one night he was passing through the village square, and there was a poster, some gypsy fortune teller, and she had on her poster, "I can cure anything." And he thought, what have I got to lose? So as long as I sneak out at night, nobody knows. So he sneaks out one night. She had a little tent up outside of the city, and she gets it, and she's got a little crystal ball, and the whole bit. And he goes, I have a problem. And she goes, well, tell me the problem. He says, well, it's kind of embarrassing, but I don't have a belly button. Instead, where everybody has belly buttons, I have a golden screw. She said, that's fine. So well, tell me your problem. And he said, no, that is my problem. She said, well, that's not a problem. Your great-great-great-grandfather probably had one just like it. He usually skips about every 3 or 4 generations. And he's going, I'm not the only one. She says, no, it's not that uncommon. Not that I've ever actually seen one, but I've heard of it, and I've read about it. And he goes, oh, that's wonderful. What should I do? She goes, what do you mean? Well, how do I get rid of it? She goes, you want to get rid of it? Well, hold on. So she goes back into the inner part of her tent. She comes out with this huge leather-bound, dusty cobweb book. And she's flipping through how to remove golden. Oh, there it is. How to remove a golden screw. And it's like, okay, what do I do? Oh, well, here. You have a list. Oh, you need frog eyes and lizard gizzards and, all these wonderful ingredients. And you gather them all up. And then you go to a tall hill on the full moon. And at the stroke of midnight, everything's in the pot and boiling. You'll be cured. Uh-oh, Phil's gonna.
Go on. I'm checked. You're good.
Uh-huh. And he's like, okay. So now he's sneaking around the village at night, collecting bat wings and frog eyes and lizard gizzards. And people ask questions. And it's not that he told anyone, but you drop a hint here, you drop a hint there, and they all knew what was going on. Okay. So the day finally comes where he knew it was going to be a full moon. And he gathers up all of his stuff that he needs, and the iron pot and the goat skins full of water, and he loads it onto his donkey. And then he takes out across the valley through the cornfields to the far side of the valley where there's this really tall hill. And he knows it's going to be a full moon, and he's going to be cured. He's so excited. And the whole village shut down. They closed the businesses, the schools, the banks, the city offices, everybody shut down. They load up all their picnic stuff, and they follow him. And he would be looking behind going, oh man, how did they find out? And what will I do if it doesn't work? So he goes, he climbs up that big hill, and they all set up their picnic right at the base of the hill. And all day long, there's a guy with the golden screw. And he's up there going, oh my. So as it gets darker, he gets his little fire built, and he fills the water up into the pan, and he starts dumping in the ingredients. And he found a big stick, and he would take the big stick and he would stir it. It made him feel like he was doing something. And he kept waiting. Midnight can't come soon enough. And down below it gets quieter and quieter as they're all staring up at him. And he's stirring. And then finally in the distance, you hear the sound of the village clock tolling out midnight. Boom. Boom. And he pulls his shirt up. No. Boom. Still no. Boom. Now he's beginning to sweat. He got to the 12th, boom! There was this huge explosion, and I could have done it louder, but I was afraid to. If you have little kids, that's always the funnest part. They all jump. Huge explosion. He's laying flat on his back, counting the stars, and he looks around from the back, and his pot is gone. The fire is gone. There's a pile of ashes. There's a stick, and nothing else. And he goes, I'm cured. And he checked and he went, I'm not cured. This is not good. I can't go home. And he goes over to the pile. Everybody down below is just staring. They're all wide awake. They're staring. And he goes and he looks at this pile of ashes and he kicks it. And there was something in the pile of ashes that it was shiny. So he grabs a stick and pulls it out. And it was a golden screwdriver. And he thought, no, that would be too easy. What have I got to lose? So he takes the golden screwdriver and he puts it into the golden screw and it fits. And he turns it. And it turns. And he's turning the screwdriver and the screw's coming out. He's kind of ticklish. You know, and finally the golden screw comes out. And he turns to face his villagers. And in one hand he holds up the golden screw. And in the other hand he holds up the golden screwdriver. And his bottom fell off. And that's the story.
Dun, dun. Wow.
Himebook tradition.
So for those of you that aren't Himebooks, you're now part of the Himebook
There
tradition.
we go.
Torturing listeners for decades now. Centuries even.
It's not torturous. It's a good story.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a
Who
story.
doesn't like it when the bottom falls out? I mean, like, you're out in the rain. You know that's the worst part of the storm. It's when the bottom falls out. You pick up a pot, and you're trying to take it to the thing, and the bottom falls out, and you have a new mess. You gotta love it.
I take it back. I thought that was the worst story I'd heard today.
I'll be here for as long as I can.
Wow. All right, then. Well, there you go. That's the story. Somehow, this went from, hey, share stories about your dad.
To the golden screw.
The golden screw, yes.
All right.
No, I
Thanks
do
for
have a
sharing.
great story about my dad, though.
Oh, good.
Now, this is a story you did not grow up with.
Uh-oh.
Because my father died. Oh, it's been, I think, 3 years now.
Has it really?
I think so. And just weeks, or I don't even think it was a month, after his death, my mother got a phone call. And the lady at the other end identified who she was. And my mom remembered them. They were in the apartment complex in Canada before I was born. Now, that's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just a couple years ago. And she says, I found your number on the internet, and I'm just dying to call you because I wanted you to know. My husband and I came to know the Lord.
That's awesome.
She said, we'd hit rock bottom 4 or 5 years ago. It was just, life was miserable. And we don't know how to fix it. But we remembered every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, the Himebook family would be traipsing off to church. And we decided, you know what, that's been 60 years ago. But we ought to try that and see if it works. So they did and came to know the Lord.
Oh, that's
That's
awesome.
fantastic.
I thought my dad would be happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Because his big thing was be faithful in the little things. And that was just one of those little things.
Mm-hmm.
What did Wednesday night church constitute for you guys?
Oh, that was always a mandatory thing.
Yeah, but
But
what did it
now,
involve?
when I was growing up, we had a little church out in Kansas. It was a little OPC work, and after 7 years, I think there were 26 members, and 6 of us were Himebooks.
Yeah.
5 of them were marshals, and it was just very small. But Wednesday night was strictly Bible study prayer meeting, and it was children and adults together. When you're at a small church, when the pastor went calling on Saturdays, I usually went with him. You just do that. And when you needed an usher, it might be a sixth grader. I used to play piano on Sunday nights once a month because I had to have a month to practice that thing. I was never a good pianist. And we didn't actually have a piano. We had a little organ that had been donated to the cause. But still, there was a, I don't know, sometimes I think an advantage because you could take children and give them responsibilities. And there wasn't a whole lot of choice because there wasn't a whole lot of bodies running around.
Yeah.
But in Kansas, back in the 1970s, the schools were not allowed to have anything after 5 o'clock on a Wednesday. That was church night. And so you had nothing, no basketball practice, nothing. And you couldn't touch a Sunday. Those days are gone. But
my school, small Christian school, we do the same thing. Wednesday nights, after 4:30, there's no activities other than church activities.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that in the public school?
No. Absolutely not.
That's what I grew up with.
But you don't think that's like a deliberate? I mean, not that deliberate sounds like there's a specific person you can point to and say this person was wringing their hands maniacally, but on a spiritual level, I mean. Like the good being the enemy of the best in certain life situations, as Paul would say, to be able to discern what is best, that there's not some sort of, not that I want to make everything a Frank Peretti 3D spiritual chess move, but there is an element of, I don't know, the forces at work in the world, though they are, defeated in light of what Christ has accomplished, they are still waging war, knowing they've lost, and I think that one of the ways in which they have made a certain amount of ground in culture is by things like this, by basically pitting good things against ultimate things. Not that going to church on Wednesday night will save you, but it's that by giving us multiple outlets, an innumerable amount of outlets of entertainment, where we can literally amuse ourselves to death, where we're told, hey, this is a good thing that our kid can participate in. I mean, I only have a 3-year-old, so I can't speak from the weight of having to measure all of that. But I do think it's fascinating that, again, going back to the general point, which is that they used to be Wednesdays and Sundays it wasn't even thought of.
Right.
Like, you just don't touch that. You don't have to go to church, but there are enough people who do, because we want to make sure that is allowed. And I think it also speaks to something that you mentioned earlier about giving young people responsibility, because everything's become so individualized, which I would argue is another way that our culture has kind of grown warped. And there's nothing wrong with individuality to an extent. Like, we are individuals, and that is a beautiful thing. And it is wonderful that you can find things that are kind of tailored to your individual desires to an extent. But where that's kind of crept into the church, it's the way I describe it is communers versus consumers. And consumers want a product, and communers are there to invest in a communing level. And you basically see it a lot recently, at least in my own generation, with how a lot of people view kids in a worship service, which again is not a knock of spiritual standing. It's just a recognition of it didn't even used to be an option. Your kids were there. Like, it was like, this is a family event, and it's a struggle, and it's a fight, and it's and now everything's become so normalized to via desiring a product that we're made to expect, and certain larger churches can totally get away with it, whereas, like, just send your kids over here, and that way you can enjoy it on an individual level. And there again, like, I counter that with, there is an argument to be made for, you need to make time for your spiritual walk, you need to make time for time with your spouse, you need to totally get that. But how it bleeds into the corporate worship service, I don't know, like, to me that just speaks to not just how culture has changed, but sort of how the church has kind of acquiesced to that. Maybe that's opening a can of worms. And I'm not saying that, like, there's a perfect solution. It's more that I see it play out because we're so individualized. The idea of, like, I think that we see that because, at church, if you need someone to watch the kids, enough people, aka family members, who you can go, hey, can you watch the kids for a minute while I go do this?
Yeah.
That's the kind of community. You have to commune with people. That's not a product anymore. That's like, hey, we're as a family doing this, but we have enough connections with these other people in the pews, which is breaking the mold of individuality. So again, it's just weird.
Now, let
everything
me
you've been
flip that
saying.
on its head for a minute.
Please go ahead.
My dad and his sister, my Aunt Betty, were in church every Sunday because Grandpa Himebook needed a break from children. He absolutely believed, until shortly before his death, when he asked my sister to pray with him, maybe, we'll find out, but he absolutely believed that Christianity was for weaklings. He refused to allow his wife to go to church. She wanted to. And no, that's for the weaklings. But I'm sending my kids because then I can sit down, drink a cup of coffee, and read the newspaper, and I've got a 2-hour break. And so my dad did not become a Christian at home. He became a Christian in the Army. But he knew the basics because of all those years where his dad had sent them off to church so he could have a break from kids.
Huh.
And I'm thinking, that's really not the best approach.
Sure.
But
what a testament to the word will not come back void.
mm-hmm.
Like that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Is what you destined for evil? Not that it was evil, but what you destined for evil, I destined for good. So that's good. That's cool. Yeah. Again, not evil. Not saying that was evil, but it's like that was selfish. But hey,
that would not be the way I would want to model.
No.
My walk with the Lord for my children.
No.
Yes,
no,
we'll go with that.
Yeah, I was talking to a group of guys this past weekend about, it was a men's breakfast, and one of the questions was, if your children were to be asked what their father delights in, what would they say? Like, can you list off things from your own dad? So I was listing off things that I like. This is things that I believe my dad enjoys doing and likes doing. It's like, so we're kind of making that, again, we're all evangelists for our greatest loves. No one has to tell our kids what we like. They know, and for me, it was the conviction of the cell phone too. And it was never like, I was never just doom scrolling. I was working, email came in, a text came in, but yeah, just getting to a place where I was like, okay, I don't want my daughter to see this competing for her. For the brief window that I have to actually just be with her and not have other adult responsibilities. So yeah, I got to a point where I was, when I get home, I put my phone, I don't do this 100% of the time, but the majority of the time I sort of adopted this. I get home, I put my phone in the dresser, and I have an old alarm clock that wakes me up in the morning, and that's on purpose. That's just so I can just be present. Because and that's just one area. Like, that's what I struggle with, and that's one of my challenge to them was, what are the desires you may need to put on the altar? Like, what are the hobbies you may need to put away just for this season? And that's the thing, is that we're made to worship the eternal now, and so any loss is considered. It's like, again, look, we have young kids. Coming to church is, and then you have to remind yourself, yes, but this is for a season, and this season is them seeing us communicate to them what's worth the fight. Is it worth the fight of getting them all? We bumped into, it's a family in our church, the Mullins. They have 6 kids.
I know the
Bumped
Mullins.
into him at the zoo yesterday. Also bumped into your wife at the zoo.
Yeah, they were at the zoo.
And I just look at Patrick and I'm like, how do you do things? He was like, very slowly. He was like, it took an hour and a half to get all the kids in the car. And I was like, okay, who's the worst offender? So he's like naming, this one does this and this one does this. And he's like, but he was like, it's for a season. I'm like, that's exactly it. Like, it's crazy for a season, but then it's gone. We were at a pastor's house the day before we flew back, and from a trip Peter and Andy and I went on, and the pastor's kids are all like 10 and under, like 10 to 2,
Wow.
4 kids. And Andy was with us, and he just sort of was just like, he looks at the pastor and just goes, this is it. He's like, this is the chapter you're going to miss the most, right here, is when all your kids are in this age and they're loving on you, and you gotta discipline them, sure, but like it's I don't know, it's easier to discipline them now than when they get older, and it's like, I don't know, certain kinds of disciplining aren't on the table. You're just that's harder, and then to see them go off and just know that, like, well, my wife can only be as happy as her saddest child. Well, that's fun. And then I can only be as happy as my wife. It's a vicious cycle if you think about it.
I haven't heard that before.
What? Oh no, that's my morbid Irish way of describing it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a mother can only be as happy as her saddest child, and a husband can only be as happy as his wife. So, I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm kind of right. I think I'm kind of right.
That saying seems to ring true.
I must admit, I was singing at a funeral yesterday, and I knew the lady. Oh my goodness, she was 94 at the village, and just a remarkable woman, always upbeat, and really caught everyone by surprise when she died. But as part of the funeral service, it was brought out her husband had passed away years and years ago, but his job was he was a cotton buyer. You only buy cotton 4 months out of the year. So for 4 months, he worked really, 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 really hard. And then they had 8 months where they traveled. And they had no children. And I'm thinking, how unfair. That would have been a dream for most children, to grow up in a family where they had the freedom to just pick up. But they traveled all around the world. And what a blessing. But how many people have a job that only has them tied for 4 months out of the year?
Yeah.
And for most of us, even with a teaching
I'm about
job,
to say, with teachers, we get a summer break. No, we
but
don't.
it's not.
It's not. You get like a month, maybe. Well, okay. So like for me, I try to take at least a month to where I won't, or a week or something during the summer where I don't do anything. I won't touch writing. I won't touch any of it. However, that's hard. Like I know I fall into the trap of
My rule of thumb in the summertime, I won't allow myself to work more than 48 hours a week. And for me, 48 hours is a vacation. And that goes all the way back to when I started teaching back in 1988. Because if you don't use your summer, your year is dead.
It's dead. You can't get anything done.
So when the school year started, everything is laid out for the whole year. Everything, I had notebooks in place. So when I just finished this concert, I put that one down. I picked this one up. And at the summertime,
Yeah, that's what I do. Wow. Yeah, I have like individual folders for different special services.
you have to.
Yeah. Huh. I get that.
I didn't learn about binders until my junior year in college. My like how to.
Where did you put things before that? Sorry. Band player.
Well, and there's the thing. Like that's when those became popular.
Oh,
and
the
you could
iPads? Or the
iPads became a thing. Like laptops were faster and better. You could carry them with you. So all my stuff was digital. So I'm a digital person, but I see I see how convenient that is. Where I don't have to pull up the file. I can just grab the thing, put it down, and look at it. Like so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also like a tactile person. I mean, when I started the master's degree in 2010, they were just starting to like not harp on students for bringing their laptop or iPad into the room.
Now you can't get it away from them.
Well, right, but you also know you only have half their attention. You know that they're not just on there like dutifully taking notes. No, like they have all these tabs pulled up. It's like we've just accepted defeat in that sense. And part of it's like, and I forget the study that came out, and it was talking about how we retain more things when we handwrite them versus even typing.
And the same with reading.
Yeah,
you retain. I think it's 60% more of a book if you read it with paper versus if you read it on e-paper or on a screen.
Yeah, so
Our
I mean,
brains are wired.
I understand how helpful iPads can be, and simultaneously, I've done too many gigs outdoors where the accompanist's iPad overheated. And I'd be in the middle of an aria, and all of a sudden I just hear them kind of quasi making it up and like in hushed tones saying to someone over their shoulder, "Get the folder, keep singing, get the folder." And so I'm like, singing, and then finally they're back, and I'm like, there's an old school way of keeping that from happening.
And not to mention, like that's gonna if it's a hot day, it's gonna overheat.
Yeah, you tell yourself it's more worth it in an outdoor scenario because of the page turning, like the wind blowing and stuff. I totally understand.
I get that, but.
Yeah. So anyway, I
digress.
I get that. Yeah. But no, I'm always going to be a folder person. I would much rather have printed music that I'm looking at. I can make notes, and you can make notes in an iPad. I totally get that. But all it takes for you to drop it, and then that's all your music, or for it to randomly start uploading. When you're about to start a concert or something. I've seen that happen to accompanists, and they're scrambling to get the music from the singers, and that's fine. Look, no system's perfect. There's no perfect solutions, only trade-offs. I get that. I'm just not willing to bite the bullet and accept those trade-offs.
I do both now. I have all of it on a file that I can get on my iPad, but then I have the folders like right there in case I need it.
Yeah. I have all of it scanned onto a PDF.
Yep.
Just in case.
I know Dad does not have it. You have been working on getting most of it scanned and
Look
put
at
together.
you.
But
in a concert,
it's a piece of
I have a notebook.
Oh, of course, yeah. But like Mom could easily get an app for her phone that she could scan straight to a PDF. If she wanted to give her one more thing to do.
She doesn't need any more.
No, I
to
know.
do. Oh my goodness. No.
No, when y'all hit it big, she's gonna just become the ultimate hostess and just have all the grandkids over all the time. And when is that gonna happen?
In my dream world, I have scheduled my retirement at the age of 80.
Cool.
Yeah, well, I'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, any parting stories before we feel like we still have more to talk about regarding Grandpa, so we'll just have to have you back, I guess.
Okay, but have I told the story about Grandpa and the pontoon boat?
Not for our listening viewers.
I don't know it.
I have to tell you this story. Now, my father worked for Diversified Manufactured Housing.
It's a little
mobile home
risque.
company.
You need to know that.
Yes.
Flag number 2.
And he was director of personnel and purchasing for the largest plant in the company, which was in Hutchinson, Kansas. And he had some great stories, by the way. On one occasion, somebody in the plant was destroying company property. And they had to hire a Pinkerton detective to come and break the case. And the only two people that knew about it was the plant manager and my dad. And they had to come up with a fictitious name, and they had to hire this guy. And he's a great big old fellow with beards and tattoos. And this was in the 70s. And he's like the most unpoliceman you'd ever see. But he was the Pinkerton detective. And he worked just like everybody else. But he would have a handwritten report on the manager's desk every Monday morning. And he figured out who it was. And it was one of the guys who'd been around forever. Great big fella. His sons were already working for the company. And he weighed about 300 pounds. And whenever he had a break, he would try to find anything that there weren't cameras back then, anything that was not being observed. And he would just break furniture. And he would, just for the fun of it, cabinets for the fun of it. And the deal is, you have to fire him, but you can't tell him why, because you can't tell him there's a Pinkerton detective. You have to leave that out completely. And Dad was director of personnel. He had to fire him. And so Dad had him come to his office, and he said, look, you go to pick up your check. You're gone. You will not return. And this guy looked at my dad, and he pounded on his desk with both hands, and he goes, I'm going to turn this desk over on your head. And my dad picked up his phone, and he called his boss and said, hey, come down to my office once. You want to see this? So-and-so's going to turn the desk over on my head. And that just took all the... And so the guy left. And nobody ever knew who the Pinkerton detective was, or even that there was one. He worked like 2 more weeks, put in his notice, and disappeared. But Dad had to deal with that. Okay. This is the 1970s. There was a recession. Like when we bought our store, gas was $29.9. And 15 months later, when we sold our store, gas was $109.9. That's inflation. So, yeah. They had 13 or 14 mobile home plants scattered across the Midwest. They were down to their last 4. All the doors were shutting. And so the owner, the president, the CEO, they gathered all the upper management together in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they had a plant. And they had scheduled an 8-hour meeting. How will we keep from having to shut the doors? How will we stay afloat? That was intentional. You'll find out later. They didn't even break for lunch. They had lunch brought in. And then the meeting lasted until like 9 or 10 at night. They were there from 8 in the morning until 10 at night. Everybody's exhausted. They haven't really settled anything. It's hard to beat this economy. And one of the guys who lived in Tulsa said, look, I've made reservations at a restaurant. They're holding it open for us. And then afterwards, I've got a pontoon boat.
Oh, I've heard this before. Keep going.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, keep going. Keep going. I like this story.
I've got a pontoon boat. And let's take a midnight cruise around the lake. This is one of these giant man-made lakes. And so they all went out to eat. Now, it's after midnight. They're all on this pontoon boat. There were 20-something men. And these were all the executives for all the different plants. And they set off into the darkness to relax. And they got out in the middle of the lake, and they ran out of gas. And so here you are, stuck. And the president of the company, my father said that behind his back, they referred to him as, General Washington, because he was a take charge sort of person. I could say that now. How many years ago? This was the 70s. It would have been
His family will find this podcast
50 years ago. But
to be fair, like if that's an insult,
I know.
we could all
Yeah.
stand to be insulted. But
So
Call me George Washington. I
like,
dare.
how dare you?
So he looks at his men and he says, all right, gentlemen, we need a plan. Here's what we're going to do. I always love that when they put that in the same phrase. He says, all right, what you're going to do, first of all, everyone remove your shoes. Now, they're all wearing their three-piece suits and ties. And okay, so they all take off their shoes. It's all right, gentlemen, put the shoes in the middle of the boat. Now, remove your socks. Okay. Now he says, all right, gentlemen, remove your pants. And that's a little harder. And they're looking at each other, and it's all men. But you take it, okay. And so they all pile their pants in the middle of the boat. And they're out there with their jackets and their ties and no pants. And he says, all right, half of you get on that side of the boat. Half of you get on that side of the boat. Put one leg in the water and commence kicking. And he stands at the front of the boat with his jacket and tie on and no pants. He's a good leader. If I'm going to tell you to do it,
I'm going
and
to do it too.
He's bellowing into the darkness. Hello! We are out of gas! And he's up there bellowing. In the meantime, you got a couple engineers on the back of the boat. Engineers, you have a problem, you fix it. And they're thinking, hello! Wait, they're thinking, the fuel tank is in the middle of the pontoon boat, and the engine's on the back right-hand corner. They're not talking to the boss. We are bellowing into the darkness. And they're like,
I'm going to figure out how to get that clip constantly rolling throughout the story.
That's right. So they're back there going, if we all stand on the back right-hand corner, the boat will flip up. And if there's any gasoline at the bottom of the tank, it will get into the fuselage, and we might get it to the engine, and we could start the engine, turn the boat. It's going to run out of gas, but at least we're going the right direction. We got a little momentum. Hello! We are... They didn't tell the boss. All of a sudden, the boat tilts, and the boss goes staggering, and he's grabbing, those cast iron things that they have on pontoon boats. And he's holding on for dear life, and he made it fine. They got the engine started. They turned the boat. They aimed for the dock. Hallelujah, they're still a long ways away. And at some point, they ran out of gas. And they kicked it in, and they got in about 3 o'clock in the morning. Already fun story. The next day, the owner of the boat brings a gallon of gas with him. He puts enough gas in to where he can bring the boat around to the fueling station. And he gets to the fueling station, and the guy in charge of the fueling station comes out, and he just looks awful. And he's just like, oh my goodness, he's trying to stay on his feet. And the fella goes, man, what's going on? He says, oh man, you're not going to believe what happened to me last night. My son and I were out in a canoe after midnight fishing, and we hear this voice. Hello! We are out of gas! So we rowed our canoe all the way in. We got a 5-gallon can of gas, and then we set off in the darkness, following the voice. Hello! We are... And we're canoeing, and we're canoeing, and we're paddling away, and suddenly, just when we got almost close enough to see that boat, they started their engines and drove off, the jerks. And the owner of the boat very wisely said, oh man, that is terrible. Wow, that was really wild.
That's wild. Wow.
So there was our closing story.
That's hilarious. And with that, that is another episode of the Himebook Family Podcast. Who we got planned for next time?
I don't know. It's on my list, but it's over there.
Oh, okay.
But we take people. I do have a list of people, but I keep certain folks on rotation. Who? Huh?
Who? What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Well, we will announce that eventually. Who's coming in next? You'll find
You
out.
want to make that a thing now?
We should announce it at the end, like
coming
who
up next. But
coming up next.
What if they don't? That's the thing. What if?
Well, then we say coming up next on the next episode.
Oh.
So then you
right.
kind of like play it
You
against
want
it.
to make like a surprise? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that way, something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Dad, for hopping on, and we will catch you guys in the next one.